Hello and welcome back to the When You're Podcast, the podcast for when you're doing anything. Today we're talking about when you're watching Kung Fu Panda 3. I think the reason why I don't think this Kung Fu Panda 3 is my favorite of the trilogy of it. Well, now it's like a 4. What is it called? A quadruplet of a franchise. I don't know, but the reason why I don't think this one is like as good as the second one is it kind of feels like there's a lot of not wasted time. I just feel like some characters don't I think there's plenty of action in it. I just don't know. Let me go through it all. I just feel like what Kung Fu Panda did was so personal, and it felt a lot more of like an identity. And I don't know, this one just kind of feels like it's the same thing, but it kind of comes out of, there's no direct focus, And the second one, it's Po struggling to find inner peace or to understand himself or to know who he truly is and where he comes from and coming to terms with it. And once he does, he finds inner peace and is able to do some pretty awesome kung fu and great stuff. But now, this one's about chi. This one's about like giving life or about what you pass on to others. And that comes across in the film. I think Po does that quite well. And it's what ends up saving him in the end. But I just kind of feel like, I don't know, a little too goofy for me, maybe. I can't put my finger on it. But this one's still a really good one. So let's begin with the new villain, because they show up at the beginning. And the new villain is called Kai. I forget, he's an ox? Buffalo? It's really somewhere in between there. He's some sort of thing like that. But he's trapped in the same spirit realm that Master Oogway is in. And I guess he's been trapped there for 500 years or so, right? And he wants vengeance on Master Oogway. And they have like this back and forth dispute. And I was honestly excited to see Master Oogway again because he's so wise and kind, and he's very silly, and he comes across, he's just a good fan favorite character that I have, I really enjoy him, and his voice actor does a great job with him. So anyways, Kai and Master Oogway are going at it, and it's because, long story short, Master Oogway kind of sent Kai to the spirit realm because he was in search of chi. He was trying to absorb everybody's chi, trying to become super strong. And in doing so, he doesn't realize that taking other people's chi hurts him in the end, All of that strength kind of empties his, or overfills his cup, so to speak, right? And it gets to a point where Master Oogway has to kind of be like, yeah, okay, take my chi, but you're going to end up being your own demise. You know what I'm saying? You're going to end up causing this to happen to yourself. And that's kind of the way that it works, You take too many people's chi, then you're not going to be able to fill your own cup. So like, for example, if my drink, or like, let's say I have a cup, right? And my cup is filled with water, but instead of filling it up with my water, I fill it up with that person's soda, or this person's like apple juice, or this person's lemonade, and right? Like, I fill it up with all of these different drinks. I actually have less water in my cup, and all I have is all of your delicious drinks, but all of it mixed together is like, you don't get any one flavor. You don't get any one consistent drink. It's just kind of like a mix of all of these different things. And it's like, it's not really that good. So that's what he kind of means is that like the more that he takes, the more people's chi, the more masters he takes for himself, the less he actually, the less of chi that he actually has of his own, and none of that strength is his own. So it kind of like backfires on him, and it's too much for him to handle. And for Kai, it's all about strength, just being the ruler of China, and him just being like, I'm back on top, baby. Nobody can stop me. I'm the greatest. I'm the strongest. And he's trapped in the spirit realm, and by absorbing enough chi, or enough people's chi, or master's chi, he's able to... Is anybody tired of me saying chi? I'm tired of saying chi. Okay, enough of that. He's trapped in there, and then once he gets Uguay's, he's able to return to the spirit realm. So I didn't even know that was possible, that you could escape from there if you've been sent there. I kind of was just like, oh yeah, that's the place you go when you die. Like, that's what... I thought that's just what happened, you know? But actually, it's not. It's... You can escape from there, and you can go back to the real world whenever you like. It's just that for him, it took like 500 years. But anyways, essentially, what Poe is trying to master, what he's trying to learn from Shifu and from Master Oogway was Chi. And it's essentially energy that flows through all of us, and that's like a part of us and whatnot. And Shifu is able to demonstrate partial demonstration of how to use it, or what its uses could be for. So for example, he passes on chi to like a flower, and it's able to like blossom and bloom. And because of that, he shows Poe as like, it's the next step of your training. This is how you give to life. You know what I'm saying? Like, we take from nature and whatnot, and then now we pass it on to people, to nature, all of that good stuff. And it's really about how we're all connected, how we all contribute to one another, how we give life, you know? We can give, and it's kind of like instead of watering the flower and giving it sunshine, you give it some of your chi, right? Like that's the example. When in actuality for us, like it's not as easy as us pushing our palms and then the flower comes to life. It's not as easy as that. It's actually time and dedication and patience to make the flower really grow into what you want it to be. And that's the example. That's what they're just trying to say. It's like the chi is an example of us putting our time, devotion, our energy into this one thing, and we're able to make it something really great. And that shows through towards the end for Poe. And it can be passed on to other people. It passes on to him. It passes on to Tigress, the Furious Five, to Shifu, to his Panda father, and his Goose father. You know what I'm saying? And that's another point. All right? It's in all of us. You know, it passes on to just about everybody in his life. And he's a great example of somebody who's able to give so much to other people and allow them to become, I don't want to say new, but they add something onto their life, you know? It's like instead of being just one thing, you know, like this totally... So if you're like how should I say it? Let's say, for example, you are a gardener, okay? You garden. That's like your main number one thing. That's amazing. That's great. But then you come home and you have like a son or a kid or whoever, right? And you're like, I gotta feed this little kid. So then you become like a chef, right? Like this person added something onto your life or made you something completely new, right? They also made you like a mother or a father, right? But like they also made you a chef because you have to cook and you have to do stuff for them. You know what I'm saying? Like I hope I'm making sense. It's just kind of like when we push our lives or when we give a piece of ourselves to somebody, we can add something new to their life, something new to who they are. And the same is true for us, you know? It's in all of us. Chi in the film and I guess in real life, it's all connected in who we are. It's the energy that we push onto others, that we take from others. And that's what kind of this is showing us, is that it doesn't have to be a physical like beam of light or yellow palm to symbolize it. It's more so like, oh yeah, we are all connected and we're all a part of who we are now. And it all started from this or that or this other thing, you know? So with that, there's also the new characters of the film, which is Poe's father. He shows up, and I guess this is where kind of, what should I say? It just kind of frustrates me, or it makes me feel like there was so much more they could have done. Instead, they made it a little bit more goofy, a little bit more parental, I guess I should say, because Poe's father shows up. And it's kind of like the key point at the beginning of the film is that he arrives. And from what they showed at the end of the second movie, I thought he was like he was wearing like this super dope robe, and everybody was a lot more elegant and just like calm and at peace. And I just felt like he was going to contribute a lot more kung fu wisdom. And I thought we were going to get a little bit more backstory of how he's been able to cope this whole time. But we kind of do. We kind of get an idea of how Poe's father finds out that Poe is alive and all of this other stuff. But when they first meet, it's kind of, they do like this funny bit where it's like, I lost my son, and he's like, I lost my dad. And then they're kind of like, I hope you find your dad. And he's like, I hope you find your son. And then they turn around and then they face each other like, dad, son, you know, they kind of get back together. And his original name was Lotus, but there's a kind of immediate bond. And, you know, Poe's very excited, and he's kind of like, let me show him my life. Let me show him everything that I've been through. You know what I mean? So he sees his lifestyle. He sees that he's the dragon warrior. He's at the Jade Palace, fights with the Furious Five, does dangerous missions and such. He gets to play with some of the Jade Palace artifacts from different masters and whatnot. It's all kind of fun, and they like catch a ball of sorts, and they're like, go long, and it's kind of that father-son bond. And he sees his lifestyle and he's like, that's pretty dangerous, that's crazy. And his other dad, the goose, Mr. Ping, he's very jealous, because he's just like, I raised Poe my whole life. He shows up for 5 minutes and all of a sudden he's like the greatest thing in the world. You know, it's kind of like, I don't want you to take my son from me, or for him to forget that like I've been here for him. You know what I mean? It's that kind of like fear and jealousy, and kind of like, well, you don't know him like I do, or I'm his dad and I know him better than anybody else, and da-da-da-da-da. And I kind of like that for his character. I thought that made sense, and it made sense for some funny moments. But it also kind of got a little annoying, but in in a very fatherly kind of way. And the same thing goes for Poe's dad. He's very protective as well, and it's what eventually leads him to lie to Poe in saying that I can teach you how to do chi. Just come with me to my panda village where it's safe and secluded in the mountains and whatnot. And for me, watching it, I was just kind of like, yeah, that's so, like, that's cool. Like, that's how they've been able to survive, or that's how they were able to keep Lord Shen or everybody else away by, using chi and being kung fu masters as well. Like, Poe's not the only one. I was like, oh, that's so dope. That's cool. Because they made him look all regal and spiritual, like a real master when we saw him at the end of the second one. But it was actually all just a protective lie because he saw what Poe did for his living. He saw him fight those Kai's minions, or like the separate masters, the like jade green masters, and he was just like, that's too dangerous. How am I supposed to let you be in harm's way? So I lied to bring you here so that way you wouldn't have to fight them. And I was like, oh, that's, now he's like, he hasn't been a part of Poe's life, and all of a sudden he wants to play father. I was like, that's not it. And in the end, all it does is just hurt the village instead. Like, it doesn't do anything. The panda village that we see, or that we're shown, is actually really fun. I think it was very, I thought it was exactly what it needed to be. It wasn't exactly what I thought it was when I saw the end credits of Kung Fu Panda 2, but it's kind of like, okay, this is a nice little town, nice little village, a nice place where they can chill and have fun. And another part of Poe's identity that he's kind of never really got to explore or really care about was how to be a panda. Like, he had no idea what it was to, you know what I mean? It's kind of like there's no preconceived notion of like how to be anything, but when you're the only one, you kind of just like find your own flow. So like, he was the only panda, so there's no given idea or concept of like, well, what does a panda really do? Like, how does that work? So he kind of like made his own identity and was his own person. It was like anything he did was like that of a panda. But now that there's a whole panda village, they have a different way of eating, of getting around, of kind of doing things, and he has to kind of learn and assimilate, and he has to get back to like, well, this is what pandas do, you know what I mean? Like, they're at the dinner table and he's getting a chopstick and he's eating a dumpling one by one, and then everybody's looking at him like, you only eat them one at a time? And it's like, that's how my dad taught me, that's how I've been eating. But now they see that like they stuff their face full of dumplings and they eat that way. And I thought that was a funny way to show that like there's a whole different culture, there's a whole different way of being yourself that sometimes I don't want to say lose touch of, but there's just a whole nother way to live, and that's very evident in their lives. And I like that for Poe. I like that he had to like, there's always something new for him to learn. And speaking of new things to learn, he has to learn how to do chi. He has to learn how to pass on energy and life to different things and be cool like Master Shifu showed him. And it just kind of, there's no real moment where it's like it feels like less like an earned thing and more of like a given at the last second, but it is earned. This is the thing, is that like everything that he's been through in his life has been the giving of chi or the passing of energy or life to other people. But it's not really like in the same way that he learned or he found inner peace. And that's why I thought that the Kung Fu Panda 2 did such a much better job with the lesson of inner peace and of learning how to know yourself. But this one is kind of like over the course of the two movies, who has he become? What has he really done? Whose lives has he affected and contributes to? And that's what kind of makes the ending so nice and heartfelt. And yes, it kind of fast tracks the chi learning experience, but it's the easy way to get it across instead of taking more and more time. So, anyways, he's supposed to learn chi from his father by training in the village on how to be a panda. And essentially, he's like, man, he has like a whole army. He has Master Shifu. He has the crane, mantis, viper, monkey. He's got so many of those green jade masters at his disposal. We have to figure out a way to stop him. And he ends up training the pandas to fight or face Kai by using their unique way of living. So their rolls and their jumps and the panda girls, what's it called? Weird dancing techniques and ropes and whatnot. And then he's just trying to teach them little pieces of kung fu so that they can all face him together, you know? And he does a quick montage, but it makes sense because it takes time for Kai to get to the panda village. So in that time, he trains the village. And I like that teaching moment for him. Even though it sometimes doesn't go right, it's kind of fun to see. And eventually, Tigress shows up after losing Master Shifu and the other Furious 5 members. And she kind of is like, Po, the Kai is coming. He's of great danger. And then that's where he starts the training of the pandas. And I felt like all of it was... I thought it was smart keeping Tigress. You know, they could have done the easy thing and just got her taken away. But the relationship that she has with Po, the friendship that they have over the course of the trilogy really felt right, that she was the one to stay and to grow as well. So then Kai finally arrives, and initially Po and the rest of the pandas, they do pretty well. You know, I'm not saying they're like kung fu masters, but their uniqueness and the way that they handle themselves gives them a fighting chance. And then it's all up to Po. And Po fails. He does the whooshy finger hold. And the whooshy finger hold is... I mean, it has no effect. It doesn't work on Kai. And because it doesn't work on Kai, he has to like... He's like, oh no, I failed. I was wrong. And that was the moment that really hurt the most, was when he got beaten up by Kai, sent flying back to the panda village, and all of them are looking at him like, oh no, Po. They're looking at him because he said he was going to defeat him. It was all going to be over. You know, it should be over now. They can't keep this up forever. And then Po looks at them all and was like, no, I was wrong. Run. And that was the kind of like a, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? I remember that part. And I was like, that's so crazy. That's so, you know, that hurts because he's never failed. Well, he's failed, but only to his own expense. Right? Like, against Tai Long, he didn't really fail anybody, right? He kind of faced him one-on-one, and then he saved the valley. Second movie, he got beat up by Shen, then he learned inner peace, and then he saved the Furious 5, right? Like, I guess he kind of failed the Furious 5 by getting them captured, but he came back in the end. So it wasn't like it was over. Whereas in this one, he got beaten, and now there's a whole panda village that are going to be essentially, I don't know, beaten and killed, and like he failed them. You know, he was their last thing of defense, and he failed them. And he was like, no, I was wrong. Run for your lives. And then he gets the brilliant idea of, I can't take you there by yourself, but I can take you there with me. And he does a whooshy finger hold on himself. They both go there, and I thought the whooshy finger hold meant death. Maybe he does die, but he kind of just shows to be alive. And in that moment, he faces Kai in the spirit realm. And that's when Kai essentially he beats Po again, and he's about to absorb his chi. And it's in that moment where he's gone and he's taking Kai away, and everybody, Po's dad, Mr. Ping, everybody kind of gather around and they pass on to him the energy that he's given to them. So that's what this whole thing was leading to, is that like chi isn't always represented through the palm and the yellow light, right? It's Po being a friend to Tigress, and being a son to Mr. Ping and his father, and being a friend to all of the people in the Panda village, and being a teacher, and all of these different things, and making people realize who they really are, you know? You made me realize that I'm somebody who is capable of kung fu, or that I'm a little stripey baby or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like that, those are the things that they all realize about themselves because of Po, and they're able to give it back, that energy, that life, and it's what ends up saving him, and it gets him the ability to master chi and become the fully realized dragon warrior. And then it's shown through this huge dragon chi thing, and he fights again, and he beats him, and he ends up giving him all of his chi, and it's too much for Kai to handle, and then he like really dies. So I don't know if there's like a spirit realm within a spirit realm, but that's where he went. He went even further down that path. And then we get Master Oogway back at it again. He's back along with all of the others like Shifu, Monkey, Viper, Crane, Mantis. They all come back, and all of the other masters. And we see them all. And in that moment, Po and Master Oogway have this very interesting conversation about like, how did you choose me, and how was I the one that you knew was going to be the Dragon Warrior? And he was like, the moment I saw you, I knew that you were going to be, because you're a panda, and I knew you were going to be the one to master this chi. I knew you were going to be the one to stop Kai. I knew all of it. You know, I saw it in you. That moment you came down like a big fireball, that you were meant to be the Dragon Warrior. And that's when Oogway tells him that like, you can make the choice to stay here with me and live this peaceful life in the spirit realm and be like the strongest dragon warrior, or you can go back up there and be Po and still the dragon warrior, you know? And that's what he does. He's like, I can go back, and he's like, I don't know, I've never tried. So it's kind of hinting that Oogway, you know, a little sprinkle that he might be up in there, but I think he's just happy with his peaceful life in the spirit realm, you know, having inner peace in there. So then, now that he goes back and sees everybody again, and now they all want to learn chi, and Po can teach it to Shifu, he can teach it to everybody, how to fully master it and be a teacher and be the fully realized Po and Dragon Warrior that he was meant to be. And I felt like that was a nice way to leave the movie off. But now there's a Kung Fu Panda 4, so we'll see how that goes. But in terms of this movie, when you're watching Kung Fu Panda 3, be ready for some. You know what? This is 3 movies in the making, and you got to appreciate it for everything that Poe's journey has been about and what he's passed on to other people. And it's really a moment of reflection to look at what you pass on to others or the energy you give off. You know what I mean? You're not going to be perfect, but you can at least see the good and hopefully know that whatever you pass on or whatever you give adds to that person's life, no matter how small or insignificant we make it seem. So yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. I'll talk to you guys all next time. Thank you.